How's it going, everybody? ZBilbs back here for another video, and today is not a happy day because today I'm doing my review for the Kenobi TV series. Now, this is gonna be really hard for me because, not only is this gonna be probably, a big, long thing because it's a long show, but this is even harder for me than the stupid Matrix Resurrections review, because while I enjoy the Matrix series, Star Wars is like my all-time favorite franchise ever, and Obi-Wan Kenobi is and has always been my favorite character from Star Wars. So going into this show, I was so excited, the potential, all the things that you could have in here, like, this could have been amazing, and it should have been amazing. And there were moments of greatness dispersed in just bucket loads and bucket loads of just crap and nonsense. And it's just, as the title says, it's heartbreaking. It's a heartbreaking failure of a TV show. And even more so than The Matrix, whereas like The Matrix Resurrections, it's like that's worse quality overall than I think this show. This show was still like better made, I think, and more interesting and engaging than Matrix Resurrections, but it's so much more disappointing for me because it had just so much higher potential and expectations, especially considering, even though, I mean, the Book of Boba Fett was kind of mediocre, but I've loved both 2 seasons of The Mandalorian, so like they could have made a good show, and there were so many moments in the show where I was like, could have done this different, this different, this different, like just little tweaks here and there just could have made it a lot better of a show. Definitely not perfect. So pretty much what I'm doing in this video is just like my Matrix Resurrections review. I'm just gonna go point by point to all of the things that what I think made up for a failure of a TV show, frankly. As far as Kenobi goes. Now, there is going to be spoilers ahead. I don't think I'm going to be able to talk about anything without spoilers, so if you want to go see the TV show spoiler-free, then click off this video now. If not, you want to hear my in-depth thoughts, I'm going to go point by point, as I said, and show you what it was that made Kenobi such a heartbreaking failure. And they're definitely core fundamental things, but let's start off with a small thing and sort of build our way up. But who knows? This is kind of a rant/review. It's not structured or anything. I'm just going at it and giving you my thoughts. But yeah. And to start, the first major issue that I have with this series is one that I've seen just popping up all over the internet online, and that it's the elephant in the room. It's Reva. It's the one character that nobody really likes, nobody cares for. And I just like say off the bat, this isn't like anything to do with race or like anything like that. I know there's some crazy racist people in there, but just because somebody has a criticism with a character doesn't mean it's immediately race related. I just like to get that off the bat, because generally speaking, I don't know the actress who played Reva, but she had moments in there where like there was genuine, like just well acted, good emotions. I would say pretty much everything. The first 4 episodes, she was just a terrible, abysmal character, and generally her acting was just wooden and lifeless. Anytime they tried to force her as like an intimidating threat, which pretty much she was the main villain for everything episodes 1 through 4, and even a bit in episode 5. She was like the main threat, and they were putting her in the face, and she was supposed to be scary. There was a moment where she was like, Obi-Wan, like in episode 2, where she's trying to be all like scary and menacing, and when she was trying to get information out of Leia and like torturing her, it's like, no. And then even when it's revealed later, like what her deal was, all of that like fake menacing stuff just makes absolutely no sense. But it was portrayed in such just a horrifically bad way that, it just wasn't good. And, I think there is some criticism to be put on the actress, but I also think she kind of did her best with the material that she was given. I just think they tried to force her to be a character that just didn't quite work. What would have worked more was like already sort of kind of a tragic anti-hero right off the bat, but them trying to make her the main villain just didn't work. The best parts about her was when she showed some emotion, when she recalled like the flashbacks to all of her friends getting killed as younglings, and at the very end when she cried when she couldn't like kill Luke. Like that was some like good emotion. Like I was like, okay, like that's some good acting. It still doesn't make up for like all of the rest of the show when she just like it was just lame. She was just a lame character. Like, I'm sorry. Um, and so that's like really sucky. And then the fact that she's pretty much the second biggest character in the entire show. The show is called Obi-Wan Kenobi. It really should have been called Obi-Wan Kenobi and Reva, because it's really about those two characters. And that segues into my next point, and that is this show has two major plot lines when it should have had one. Um, it's called Obi-Wan Kenobi, but it's really Obi-Wan Kenobi show and Inquisitor's show, and then they took it and they smashed it together. Obi-Wan Kenobi's the main character of his show. It's Obi-Wan Kenobi versus Darth Vader / Anakin. And then you've got Reva and the whole power struggle between her and the Grand Inquisitor and Darth Vader, and then she's just butting heads with Kenobi. And even like going back to the Reva point, like I thought that this, that this was like Obi-Wan Kenobi centric show, everything was going to be revolving around him, that when they introduced Reva, I thought she was going to be an even worse character than she always already ended up being, which isn't saying much, because like she seemed to have like such a deep grudge and vendetta against Obi-Wan. Like she needed to find him. She was so angry and she was like taunting him, and I was like, what did Obi-Wan Kenobi do to her? Like they hinted that she was a youngling at the very beginning, and so I was like, oh, was he related to her somehow? Did he mess with her when she was a youngling or something? But no, it was much more of a simple explanation. It was just that she wanted to get revenge on Darth Vader, and then she was mad at Kenobi for training Anakin, and so that it's partially his fault. And it's like, that's such like a weak tie-in to like Kenobi himself. It wasn't about Kenobi. You could have completely removed him from the picture and just did a completely thing with a show with, Reva, Grand Inquisitor, all the other Inquisitors, and her trying to go on and take Darth Vader. Like, that would actually be an interesting storyline. They could have done a lot of stuff with that. But all we got was a completely just unfleshed out storyline that they tried to shoehorn into the whole Kenobi storyline completely unsuccessfully. It feels like two completely disjointed stories that they put together when we're watching a show called Obi-Wan Kenobi. We want Obi-Wan Kenobi. That's what we came for. And the fact that not only is she really a side character, but she really is the second main character of this entire show is completely missing the point of what an Obi-Wan Kenobi show is supposed to be. It's just mind-boggling to me that they would go in this direction. And that'll lead into probably my biggest point, and that is the runtime of this show. Now, this show, it's a TV show because everything's got to be a TV show these days now that The Mandalorian is a success and that Solo was a bomb. Now let's just make everything Star Wars a TV show because that is what the people want. There's even talks I heard that there was at one point going to be a Kenobi movie. But those got scrapped apparently, and this is what we got now. But yeah, honestly, the way this show goes, like, I was just being like, this show so easily could have been a movie. I was just looking at things and I was like, yep, could have cut that, could have cut that, could have cut that, could have cut that. Because the episodes aren't even that long, and a lot of them are just padded with credits, opening and closing. And I think the total runtime, I have no idea what it is exactly, but it's somewhere near probably 4 hours. And they so easily could have made a 2-hour, 2.5-hour movie out of this. That would have been so much better. They definitely would have had to change a lot of things. But there's so many things that are just so dragged out and so bloated. And unnecessary that I'm like, why did we have to have this in here? Like, for starters, like what I've already been saying, they shoved in a second whole plot line in here that they absolutely didn't need. The whole Reva Inquisitor's plot line, throw that out the window, throw everything out the window. There's no necessary connection to Kenobi. Sure, she blames Kenobi and stuff, but what her real motivation is with Darth Vader. We don't need her to be hunting down Kenobi and doing all of that thing. There could have been any number of Jedi or some way of her getting closer to Darth Vader. We don't need that, and it wastes so much of the show when all we want is Kenobi and Darth Vader. You know, we want more flashbacks. We want more just anything. Put it like Qui-Gon, like they put him in at the end of the show, the end of the show where he walks off with Qui-Gon. That's where the show should have started, not where it should have ended, where Obi-Wan is just training in the desert and maybe he goes and faces Anakin near the end. But it's they're just trying to make this like Mandalorian Book of Boba Fett, and it's not. It shouldn't be a show. It should be a movie, as I've said a billion times already. How many things like could I list here that they could have cut? Like, first episode, it's all exposition. It's 30-40 minutes of exposition. You've got a freaking 20-minute chase scene, quote unquote, of Leia running through the jungle, and two people are the slowest, worst kidnappers in the history of ever. Like, that you could even shown that off screen. And also, Leia gets kidnapped twice in this show. Like, one, we don't even necessarily need Leia as a plot point, but let's say that she's a plot point, because whatever. And she gets kidnapped twice. They do like the same thing. One by the kidnappers, and then they escape, and then again like by Reva directly. Did we need that? And then the whole first episode is all exposition. It's all dragged out. You could have cut that 40-minute episode into 20 minutes of an intro to a movie and been fine. Then there's like the second episode. A big chunk of them is just, he breaks her out, and then they're just wandering through the streets and just more exposition. And then she runs away for no reason, just so we like literally probably like a 15-20 minute like chase / action scene, just for the Obi-Wan to finally get his force powers back. And you didn't even need to get rid of his force powers, or you didn't need to make that such like a big plot point. Episode 3 is where like it's got one good scene when you've got the Obi-Wan Darth Vader rematch, even though it's not much of a fight, but that's interesting. And you also get to see a stormtrooper cut in half. Episode 3 is like okay. Episodes 1, 2, and 4 are all really bad. Episodes 5 and 6 are also decent, but back on topic. But episode 3, like, once again, they're running. They didn't even have to be running at this point. Like, this is the part where, like, say she gets kidnapped at the beginning. He should have, brought her back home. And then, I don't know, Darth Vader tracked him down, like, quickly. But, they had to shoo in all of the little, like, rebel camp, because we need more runtime. We need him to protect a bunch of rebels, too, so we can introduce more characters that you don't care about and then get killed off, and it's sad, because then you got, like, Tala or something, and then the droid, and then all of those people. And then episode 4, the stupid infiltration. That episode is just Rescue Leia Part 2. And it's long, it's prolonged, it's boring, and then Wade dies, and the most pointless character, and they spend like 5 minutes mourning over this character who had one line of dialogue. Like, come on. And then there's even one part where like they padded out so much that time jumps, like the time inconsistency is just off the charts in this show. There are times where like frickin' Reva is about to torture Leia, and like the prongs are coming in to torture, and it's like, and then like Obi-Wan is like doing a billion things and going over there, and then they're like slowly going in at like a microscopic level, and then what would have been like a half hour of real time it would have taken to go in, he's like, oh, there he is, now he rescues Leia, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's ridiculous. But episode 5, it starts to get better. I mean, there's some more little things I need to touch on, but You get to see more Vader. You get to see the cool fight between Reva and Darth Vader. Like that, I love that he just like absolutely destroyed her. Um, there's more things that I'm skipping over that I will get back to, but that was cool. And then episode 6 was definitely the best episode of the series, just for that Obi-Wan Darth Vader fight, and where Darth Vader gets his mask chopped off. Like that was fantastic. Like that's what we wanted. We wanted, Obi-Wan like learning in the desert with Qui-Gon. Some stuff happens in the middle. Maybe Leia gets kidnapped. He goes, he rescues her, and then there's the fight with Obi-Wan, with Anakin / Darth Vader, and then the dramatic reveal. That's all we wanted. We didn't need freaking Inquisitors in there. We didn't need Leia getting kidnapped twice. We didn't need a whole band of rebels. Like, it's too much that they're doing in here. It's bloated, it's unnecessary, and it takes the emphasis so far away from Obi-Wan that I just think it's disrespectful to call this show Obi-Wan Kenobi when it's not about him. And then probably my last main point with this show is that it's just such lazy screenwriting, screenplay, whatever you want to call it. It's so bad in this show. Like there's always like some plot holes, some inconsistencies in Star Wars. I think this whole show probably has more inconsistencies than like the entire original trilogy and prequel trilogy have combined. Not the sequel trilogy, there's a billion of them in there, but like you could just go episode by episode and be like, what? Like, how did they know about that? How, like, there's so many like logical jumps that you have to make on certain thing. Like for one of like some of the biggest ones. First, the Grand Inquisitor gets stabbed, and it's like, oh, he has 2 stomachs, so he's fine. But it's like, stab wounds mean nothing in Star Wars? Like, I mean, we knew he was coming back because he's in Star Wars Rebels, but like, really, when you get stabbed, like, it does more. Like, sure, it pierces the stomach, but there's a lot more than just your stomach in your body. Like, and it's usually they get stabbed, like, right in the center, like, right freaking where the spine, or near where the spinal cord is. Like, no bacta tank is gonna solve that. Like, do you remember in Book of Boba Fett, in like the first, or one of the episodes, when there's a flashback of when what's her name, the one female bounty hunter that Boba is friends with, Fennec Shand, and she got like just shot in The Mandalorian, and then he had to go and get her whole stomach replaced with cybernetic parts for her to be fine. Like, that was a whole plot point of the show, how this one blaster bolt like absolutely eviscerated her stomach, and they had to fix it like that. And lo and behold, you get stabbed right all the way through you, right to where your spine is, and like, oh, you're fine. Maybe he's just soaked in a bacta tank a little bit. Maybe he got some cybernetic parts, cybernetic thing, like, who knows? But that's the minor one, because like at least there's like maybe an explanation for that. But then later in the show, that exact same thing happens to Reva, and there is no explanation for it at all. And it's even made worse by the fact that not only did she just get, stabbed straight in the stomach, and apparently she did when she was a youngling, and she somehow survived that too, but then they left her all alone in the middle of this base. They should have just finished her there, just stupid, but, and like, there's no place of transportation, because there were 2 transports. Darth Vader destroyed the one, or at least I'm pretty sure it was pretty much destroyed. The other one was out of there, and then they're definitely not going to give her any sort of transport. Like, and even if she does somehow get on a transport, like, where is she going to go to get a magical, like, I don't know, mechanic healer who's going to give her mechanic insides, and then somehow get to Luke in such a short amount of time? It's not possible. And you cannot tell me she's not the same species as the Grand Inquisitor. She doesn't have a second stomach. She doesn't have magic insides already. Like, no, that's ridiculous. Her spine is gone. She should be dead. But, oh, magic plot reasons. She's alive. She's fine. She's not even injured. She's just going after Luke. So it's like, what was even the point of that cool scene with her fighting Vader? Like, what was even the point of her getting stabbed? There was no point. It was all just for the plot to just have cool things happen. And it's like, no, that's that's stupid. That is lazy, lazy screenwriting. Another example, from that same scene, it's hard because episode 5 is really good, but there's so many just terrible like things that could have been fixed with just a better screenwriter. Um, when Vader is like pulling down like the ship, and then the other ship leaves right as he pulls that one down, and it's like, oh, and he doesn't try to bring that one down. Like, don't tell me like, oh, it was too fast. I was startled. I couldn't get that one. Like, whatever. That's stupid. It's already stupid, and then the fact that they missed such an easy way to segue that plot point into the next one is that immediately after they flew off, Reva attacked him. And it's like, you really think like now is the best time after like how many years you've been an Inquisitor to attack him and then go for like a strike like that instead of like a silent backstab? But like the perfect way to fix this conundrum of how do you allow Darth Vader, this powerful being, to allow this transport to get out of there. And it's like, and then you've got freaking Reva trying to kill him, is that as he's pulling the transport down, let's say he's pulling the transport with the actual people, not the fake one, that's when Reva takes her time to strike. So he can't both, fight off Reva and pull the transport down. He's got to give all of his attention to Reva. Like, right there. That's how you do screenwriting. That's how you have a seamless transition from one moment to another, so it makes sense for the story, and it's also visually appealing. Like, how hard is that, people? How hard is that, freaking Disney Star Wars screenwriters? And then there's so many other like just contrivances that are like so stupid. Like the stormtroopers are worse than they've ever been in Star Wars here. Like in episode 5, there's like a billion stormtroopers, and then they're in like a tight, narrow hallway, and nobody's getting hit. Obi-Wan is just grabbing people, and then all the blaster bolts are going around them. Like stormtroopers are absolutely incompetent. Like the plot armor on these characters is ridiculous. And then in like the escape scene when frickin' Tala has those two stormtroopers, she just like slaps them in the face and just lifts one's helmet, and then they're just incapacitated. Like, these are trained soldiers. They're not just like bonk bonk and they're out of it. You can't just slap a stormtrooper's helmet like that. It's just one thing where it's a nitpick, but all of these nitpicks build up and build up and build up until you realize this is just lazy. This entire show, it's just lazy moment after lazy moment after lazy moment, and it just makes it really frustrating, because that's really what this show is. Like, at the end of the day, it's just lazy. It's done. It's too big for its own good. It's bloated, and then the stuff that it tries to do, it's just not done with good execution. Obviously I could like probably go on for like hour, 2 hour of all of the nitpicks in there. Some of the other like biggest ones is that, Leia's character just doesn't really fit. They just made her like, in the first episode she's in there, they're just trying to make her like she's somehow a 10-year-old child, and she acts like a freaking 40-year-old adult. She's trying to make her like the smartest character ever, but she's a child. It makes no sense. And then just as I already touched on, like some of like the time jumps in here are just absolutely ridiculous. And then even just the fact that Reva was able to like be in the Inquisitors, and Darth Vader knew that she was a youngling for so long and didn't do anything about it. And like it boggles my mind how that. And then they somehow make it out that she's like, oh, she couldn't kill Luke at the end. And then she's been an Inquisitor for how long? Like, how many other Jedi and children has she killed? Like they're trying to be like, oh, I'm a good person at the end, I couldn't kill Luke. But like, how many other like Jedi and Luke and hypocritical have you been? You're like, Anakin killed all my Jedi friends, now I'm gonna turn evil and kill all the other Jedi just so I can kill Anakin? Like, when you really try to peel back the layers on this show, it just makes just absolutely no sense. It's ridiculous. But before I'm done here, I want to say a few positives about this show, because it is really just sad and heartbreaking just how missed of an opportunity this really is. But there is a lot to like here, which it makes it even more disappointing, because every single episode, while it's covered in just narrative contrivances and an extra plot line that didn't need to be there, there's just so much good stuff there too that it almost makes it even harder, because it's like you want to watch that good stuff and you don't want to watch that bad stuff, but the bad stuff is tacked in, it comes as a pair, and you can't watch one without the other. But like, you got Ewan McGregor. I love Ewan McGregor. Star Wars 3 is my favorite Star Wars, and I was so excited for him to come back, and he was amazing for this entire show. He was just Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan. He felt like his old episode 3 self, and he feels like he's progressing even more to that Alec Guinness Obi-Wan. Like, that was fantastic. And just all of the callbacks to all of these different characters are done like pretty well. Like they're handled like, like Uncle Owen and Beru, like they're done well. Like the Organa's done well, the young Luke and Leia, I don't, they're child actors, but they're fine. You get to see, Qui-Gon as a cameo, and good. You get to see Palpatine as a cameo, and that's solid. And probably the best handling they had in this entire show, maybe even better than Obi-Wan, was Darth Vader. He was fantastic. They've got his voice nailed now that they're using like a computer-generated version of James Earl Jones. He sounds just like he did in the original trilogy. It's fantastic, and he acts like just like I would expect Darth Vader to act. Like, if there's one character that they really nailed, it was Darth Vader. Except for the fact that he totally just let him go when he was like the wall of fire. He could have walked through the fire, and he totally could have gotten that other transport ship. Like, there's a couple moments where it's like Darth Vader would not have been that stupid in those situations. But besides that, Darth Vader was excellent, and that final fight when you get to see like the synthesis between Darth Vader and Anakin is one of my favorite moments in Star Wars that I can remember in recent memory. That was just such an amazing moment for me, being such a huge fan of Star Wars 3, and especially the final fight in Star Wars 3. Like, that moment, like, alone almost carried the show and made it worth watching for me, if that makes sense. Not quite, because you have to slog through so much other stuff to get there. But, a lot of cool moments, even when there's narrative contrivances going. A lot of, the fights are going, the defense of the base, even though the stormtroopers can't aim for crap. You get to see some purge troopers, which is cool. You get to see some nice lightsaber action. There's good action scenes. As I said, you get to see a stormtrooper sliced in half. Like, that's ridiculous. Where have you seen that in Star Wars before? And I did enjoy a handful of the side characters. I liked the big robot who didn't talk. He wasn't in there much. Young Leia, as I said, she wasn't a great actress. Most child actresses aren't great, but there was some really solid moments between her and Obi-Wan when he was kind of recounting like the past of like remembering his father, or her father, Anakin, and Padme. Obviously, you had the flashback scene, which, even though I don't know why they didn't do like CGI de-aging on his face, they did that for like Mark Hamill. But that was still a really amazing scene and a really good narrative tie for the show. But like, all of this kind of wrapping it up, there are good, even great moments in this show. They're just buried under just a pile of just garbage, and it's just really, really sad to see. Oh yeah, and one final thing before I conclude here is that the music was also kind of underwhelming. I mean, you've got all of like the classic, characters and storylines going on, like, you know what I mean? And there was a very real lack of the iconic Star Wars sounds. They used it like at the very end, but like nowhere to be seen for the rest of the show. It was another just huge missed opportunity, which kind of sums up this show in general. There's so many things they could have done, should have done better, and could have easily done better, in my opinion. Like, literally, like, just cut out the crap in this, get some good screenwriters, and boom, you've got a good movie. But, easier said than done when it comes to freaking Disney Star Wars. But overall, I am going to give, it's going to be hard to give a show a ranking because, it's a lot longer than a movie, and there is definitely differing quality when it comes to these episodes. The first four, with an exception of maybe three, are all like pretty bad, just really bland and forgettable. Episode 5 is a good improvement, is solid, and I think episode 6, while there's still definitely problems in it, I think is a genuinely enjoyable episode. The only real bad thing about 6 is during the Vader Kenobi fight, they cut to scenes of Reva attacking Owen and Beru, and is like, no, I just want Kenobi and Vader. But once again, just another check in all of the mistakes that this show has made. But either way, to the score, I'm giving the show a 5.8. I think it is okay. As I said, there's a lot of good moments, and you can't discount them. It's roughly average. I'd say a little below. For me, I consider average to be 6. And it's painfully average, because Star Wars should not be an average show. It's not an average experience. It's not something you just watch and turn your brain off. There's some real like deep, meaningful stories and characters and lessons that from Star Wars, and that's not what this show was. For 90% of this show, it's something you turn on, you turn your brain off, and then you just let it wash over you. And if you're one of those kind of people, you'll probably get some enjoyment out of this. If you're a diehard Star Wars fan or someone who just enjoys a well-written, interesting plot, then I don't think you're going to love this one. You'll probably think like, yep, that was just kind of an average schlocky sci-fi dump. And that's really what it was. And it's not what Star Wars should be, and it's especially not what freaking an Obi-Wan Kenobi TV series should be. Pretty much the most, like, my most anticipated Star Wars thing since freaking Episode 7 came out, and I think this was an even bigger misfire than Episode 7. I'm actually kind of a defender of that one episode, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, let me know in the comments, what do you think about the Kenobi TV series? Did you like it? Tell me why you liked it. If you didn't like it, tell me your reasoning. What would you say it has been the best thing Disney Star Wars has done so far? What's been the best TV show? Or are you just generally just hate everything Disney Star Wars has been? I'd love to know in the comments. We'll see if this video gets any traction at all and anybody watches it. But if you like, comment, subscribe, all that. I'll come out with some new videos soon. But yeah, that's all I got for you. I'll see you later.